Welcome to Santaroga Surplus. What we're going to do today is we're going to step through modifying an existing magazine that fits the Uzi style of carbine or pistol into a magazine that fits the AR-9 Colt pattern carbine or pistol. Now, for all the haters out there, a little warning, this is not manufacturing a firearm or a magazine of it. So assuming that you can watch this because you don't live in a state that bans watching high capacity magazines, here we go. The key elements to making a Colt pattern magazine are adapting, putting a hole in to use the standard AR magazine catch, deepening the rear opening to handle the parts in the AR, and then possibly shaving this down a little bit. And that's something that I usually don't have to do, but we'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. There is a feature that you can add to these that I'm not going to get into today, where you take the follower out and you weld a little tab on it so that it will raise the bolt hold open. I'll show you what I'm style magazine adapter. And this one's not the Colt. The Colt is actually a bolt-in. This is a drop-in. Okay? You've got a screw up here to set your height. Okay? And that's critical for making your magazine catch actually work. If you take it too low, it'll stick out here. And then you have set screws in the bottom to help lock it in place. It locks in place okay, but if you're going to use this for serious use, you're going to have to do what I'm going to do next week and tap a couple holes in here for set screws, okay? But it does work. Now, the way it works with a magazine is you get it to slide up until it catches, okay? And in theory, it should ride forward far enough that it engages under this feed lip, okay? So like that. This right here is your bolt hold open catch. Okay, what raises that up is a tab on the back of the magazine follower, which doesn't exist on the Uzi mag, okay? And that would actually give you a bolt hold open. I don't worry about it. 25 round Uzi mags are what I like to use. And the reason is that they're cheap and plentiful. So the last sale, I got these for $6 each. And the welded back instead of the flat back magazines work fine in the Colt pattern AR. 25 rounds is not 32 rounds, but for $6, how much do you care? So step one is to take it apart. Just pop that down, pop that out. It's a little gritty. There's kind of a lot of oil and grease in here. Okay, it's that's grit. There's oil, but they're not clean. Some of the ones you get in the packaging will be brand new. Some of them will be lightly used. We're going to run the lightly used one today. So that's your follower. We're not going to touch that. There's your spring, faceplate. This is what we're going to mess with. There are a couple of files on the internet that will help you figure out your dimensions. I have no idea where I actually got these. They're available 5 or 6 places. You just search the threads. What it's going to give you is you're going to go the width of the lips. You need to go down 5.25 inches. Okay? Now, how you know you're going 5.25 inches with your cutting tool is the part we're going to get into as we move forward. A radius of 0.125 is great because the ideal cutter for this is a 0.25, a quarter inch carbide cutter, which has a radius of 0.125. That's the rear. You're just going to take it down a little bit, the width of the lips. On the side, you're going to make a 5.566 inches deep cut. That's deep this way. All it has to do is break through the sheet metal as far as that goes. And once again, the radius is 0.125, so you're using a 1/4 inch cutter. It is 0.275 inches wide. Okay, that's for the magazine catch on the AR magwell. And it starts 1.18 inches down from the top of the magazine. Now, if you are doing edge finding with an edge finder and you want to calculate everything out, you can. That's what some of these numbers are for. If you zero on the back edge of the magazine here, then your cutter will be here. So your cutter still needs to move 0.566 inches. So that's fine. Okay? That doesn't need a change. Coming from here, if you center your 1/4 inch bit here, then you need to move 1.438 inches to start your cut, make your cut, move over to 1.4630 inches, and then come back out. That's all there is to it. Those are the numbers that are critical, and you calculate that based on all of this. So you take the width of your cutter, the radius, and you do it. These are other numbers that work for using edge finders and such. And this ended up just being easier. An edge finder is going to be more accurate in finding your edge, but if you just use a pair of magnifiers and you square up one of the cutting flanges of your bit, you can touch off and you'll be just fine. So let's go over to the mill. We're at the mill now, and I'm already set up for the slot cut, so we're just going to go ahead and start with that. Okay? I'm going to put this in. Now we have to make it go in the vise one way or another where those lips don't sit on the edge of the vise, because that's not going to be straight. So we're going to put it in the middle. And we're going to clamp it down so it'll hold without totally deforming the magazine. It's kind of a matter of feel, and it's a little dodgy. I should probably do my work holding better, but we're going to run with this because it's been working just fine. So you're going to find the edge . We're going to come down pretty far now. Woo! You can't see this, but the bit is not squared up. Okay? So we're going to get out a wrench and we're going to square so that one of the edges of the bit, which is that 1/4 inch diameter, is in the right spot. Okay? Now we can touch off and get our 0 point. So I have magnifiers on my shop glasses, and that helps me find my exact touch point and keeps me accurate within a couple of thousandths. Okay? So I'm going to zero out my x-axis on the DRO, which you can't see, but if you were doing this manually, you would lock your table, and then you'd come over and you'd zero out your dial. So we're going to move back, we're going to move in, and there we go. That's why you always re-zero. I've got this set for a certain depth that actually works really well for the cut. You kind of have to look at that, or you can get out and a gauge and measure it, but I've got a pretty good cut there, so I take that to 0. Now I'm going to come over .4380. Now what I'm doing here is I'm locking my x-axis. This running at a fairly high speed because it's a carbide bit. So make sure my Y is unlocked. I always have to go and check that because I do that all the time. Okay, that's 0.556. So I'm going to go ahead and lock my Y travel. Okay, see the cut? We're going to unlock X, and we're going to come this way until my dial reads 14630. So we're not moving very much. We're going 200. That's it. Now we're just going to take it back out. That's it. Just took it back out. That's your slot. That is all there is to that. If you're using a carbide cutter, it cuts really well. A regular cheapo cutter isn't going to do this. This is not hot rolled or cold rolled steel. This stuff actually has a heat treat to it, and it's just gonna, you're gonna chew up one of the standard whatever Chinese Harbor Freight carbon steel kind of tungsten carbide coated cutters. Okay, that's all there is to that. We are halfway there. Up. I'm going to get it right in here. So what I'm doing is I'm getting it to slide so that these slots again sit outside of the jaws of the vise so that we can get everything flat. Okay. Once again, tight but not too tight. Now we're going to be going through two thicknesses here, okay? And with the carbide cutter, I haven't done it in one pass before, but let's go ahead and give it a try. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get my cutter down a little bit further. That's pretty good right there, okay? I'm going to lock that in place. Make sure it looks you got to check. It's definitely deep enough. We're going to zero on this lip. And we're going to do it with a little bit of a space. I'm going to use this there. See? As soon as it gets firm in there, you're pretty much there. I'm going to set the Y0 again. Okay, so that is my 0 point. That's where I start. And the end of my width is going to be 0.256, and I use these surfaces to write on. So my ending point is 0.2567. There we go. Now I won't forget, and I can wipe it off when I'm done. We are going to go 0.525 inches total in. So we have to re-zero this. So that's our new X0. We're at 0 there. Should be able to just work our way in. Okay? You can hear that. That's a pretty hefty cut for the cutter. This is not a great, it's a great fantastic mill, but it's not great big huge mill. It does pretty good. Five, six, four. Five, six, six. Now we're going to come back on here. So that smoke there is some of the internal grease coming off. I don't have flood cooling, so I'm not using a whole lot of cooling on this for this video. It's a carbide cutter and it should be just fine. Now, right here, we're getting pretty close. Make sure my measurements are right. Bring it out. And that is pretty much that. Now, so this is going to be pretty warm right now because there's not a lot of cooling fluid. And I would normally actually be using this and kind of flooding it by default, but for the video, we did this. It worked fine and went a little extra slow. That's it, you're done, and it will go into a Colt AR magwell. There's a couple things that you should do before you put it back together, okay? And the first one is you should make sure that there's no burrs on the edges here, no burrs on the inside edges here especially, because that's going to affect your follower travel, and I've actually had that problem before. You also want to wash these. There's a whole bunch of junk in there. Wash with really hot water. If these are used at all, there's sand in the grease. Hot water will get the grease to flow. You can even boil them, okay? Boiling them is actually not a bad idea. If there is any rust in them, it will convert the rust to basically a bluing form. Do the same thing to your followers, your springs, and your base plates. Put it back together, and you're done. So the one I just did, yeah, I'm still leaving open because it's going to take a while to get all the cleaning done, and I'd rather do that in a batch. So I'm going to do a whole bunch more of these. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to take apart the difficult one that I already made, has a very tight base plate, and show you the reassembly process. With this up, the tall end of the follower goes to your left, with this facing up. Spring, you've got this is attached to the bottom. Your spring is going to face the same way as your follower. Okay? So the up part is going to go to the left. You put it in. Very simple, very basic. You know how to do this, but in the interest of full documentation, you make sure that you hold this down until this is past the little button. And then as you push it in, the button catches, and you're done. You are ready to go shooting. That's all there is to this. The numbers are pretty simple. Have a good one.